Let's go!
Today, on Standing in the Six, we have Issac Olowolafe.
Junior.
And what an amazing story this guy has. Investor, entrepreneur, real estate developer.
Family man.
Philanthropist. I mean, this guy has it all. And he's doing some incredible things. We talk about standing. This man is standing for something. Live today on Standing in the Six. Get ready, because it's about to go down.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to do it again? Or
No, it's perfect. I'm gonna leave that ending in like that. That good?
Straight out of the T-Dot.
That's what it is.
Live from the 6 boroughs.
Don't go nowhere.
For sure. Welcome to Standing in the 6 with your hosts Michael and Constantine.
Well, good morning, everyone. What a wonderful, wonderful day. We're trying always new things to make things exciting for everybody.
You're predictable.
Yeah.
I know your intro right now.
Do you?
Yeah, I can't be predictable. Didn't Mama tell you never be predictable?
I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that around.
Speaking of predictions.
Yes.
What do you think? Look, Raptors.
Yes.
I know that this is going to air a couple weeks later, but now we're going to know.
Right.
Do you know?
Okay, so I'll say this. Everyone has been saying that we're going to sweep Golden State up until yesterday, which I thought was silly. People are getting a little bit too excited right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, let me say this. It's
a little Jurassic Park high.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a loaded statement because if you're in the Bremner area, you'll understand there's a pungent smell of the devil's lettuce.
It is pungent. That's why I don't like it. It just stinks. But anyways, that's another topic. Let me just say this. We have to kind of get down to a streamline here, a balance. We have to reset ourselves a bit. We're doing incredible things.
Are you trying to tell Toronto Raptor fans to calm down a little?
No. What I'm trying to say is that let's set some real expectations here. Do we have a chance to win this all? Yes, we do. 100%.
Yes, we can.
But let's.
Barack was at the game last night.
He was. Wow. Wasn't that amazing to see
crazy.
that? Oh, my. It's surreal right now what's happening. I mean, it's something incredibly magical happening in the city of Toronto. I think I read someone's posted today that, this is 3 hours of the day in a week where race doesn't matter, where, all these negative things don't come. The city gets together and they're happy and they're excited. We need to live off this high. Like, this is what needs to happen all the time.
What's amazing, our good friend Mohammed Leela, who was on the show, this international journalist, you're going to hear some new developments related to him and the Raptors, but we won't say yet, right?
Yes.
We'll keep it hush.
We'll keep it very quiet.
But he's talked about how just sport is this great equalizer, that we can all share it.
Right.
Like, it doesn't really matter. It's all about putting the ball in the hoop and enjoying it together, right?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
It doesn't matter. Like, doesn't matter how you look, doesn't matter what you eat, what you do with your lives. We can all get excited over a made three-pointer by Danny Green, right?
When he makes them. But
okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
Can they win? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I think they can 100% win. And I think
check.
I think if I'm going to make that prediction, actually, I'm not going to say it. I don't want to throw it into here. I don't know. I don't know.
What are you afraid of?
I
to
don't.
say it? It's just words.
Because to me, there's this.
Do you think that if whatever you say it's going to happen, is that
I just don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that can say we're going to lose. Okay, and by the way, stats are going out right now that we are probably the most rooted for team, not only in Canada but in the U.S. Did you know that?
And the Dominican Republic.
And the Dominican,
because our good buddy Miguel. Was in the Dominican for game 1.
Okay.
And he was at a local bar. And get this, people up the six.
Yeah.
He said that everyone in the Dominican was going crazy for Toronto.
Really?
Yeah, like the whole country is backing the Raptors.
So we are truly the underdog story. It really is.
Rudy.
Yeah, Rudy. Exactly.
Rudy.
It really is the underdog story because we have all the ingredients to win. We really do. And yesterday's game, I mean, we can always say we should have won. Our buckets just weren't falling. They were just not falling.
Yes.
Okay. And at the end of the day, there's game 3 that's going to be happening this Wednesday. I definitely think we're going to be right in there, and that's what I'll say. I want my heart is for the Raptors to win.
So we're going to compete. So what? Okay, not your ego, not your heart.
Yeah.
What does the betting man say is going to happen for this series?
Kawhi Leonard. I'm bad with names. He said If you believe it, it's the only way you can win. And I believe the Raptors are going to win in Game 7.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Game 7.
Yeah, that's what it's going to go. It's going to right to the Game 7.
For me, I said it's going to be Game 7.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like a duel back and forth, like a heavyweight match.
Yes.
Or the Raptors are going to win in 5. And I called that before.
In 5.
Yeah, things are going to click, and it's almost going to feel like, wow, how did that happen so quickly?
Okay.
So, because even as much as they stunk, for that was only half a quarter that they stunk. Golden State made them pay. They still got to within 2 points, right?
Yes.
You know, limping Iguodala still hit a 3. I mean, it just hinged on too many little things that it could have, might have. So, I believe that Golden State feels really lucky that they're not down 2-0.
So let me ask you this, because we're by the 3 weeks time when this does air, we're also going to find out potentially the fate of Kawhi Leonard. Is he going to stay with us or not?
Yeah.
I feel now this is something I feel strongly. He's staying.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I feel he's staying.
No, our feelings are just hopes. But
no, I really feel he's staying. It just I think right now what's happened when you tell someone in 20 years time from now and you just talk about the shot. Yeah. They're going to
Speaking of, can we get? I don't even know if it's in there. Grab that right now. This is a perfect opportunity to show this. We came in, and miraculously, this was here, in on the set. Let's take a look at that.
The shot.
Amazing.
This is going to be. It's going to go down in the handbooks, as the
history books.
The history books, as one of the greatest shots of all time.
And if you have a membership at Costco, you too can get that printed and framed, right?
Yes, for $16.99. Frames at Michael's for an additional $20. But absolutely. So to me, what's happened here is I think it's redefined and changed the path. Almost like we've gone back to the future and kind of altered it a bit for it to be what it is right now.
Now look, a lesson in belief. We always talk about this. We're talking about this, earlier today. Last year when the Raptors lost in the playoffs,
yep,
it was widely known that they literally folded and died under the looming shadow of LeBron and the Cavs. Okay? And it was actually said that the Raptors didn't lose. They showed the league that they're losers. Do you remember that? That's how bad that they lost when they got swept.
That's right.
Okay? So it's not that they lost. It's that they showed that they were losers because it was so bad the way it fell apart.
Right.
For this to happen 12 months later is pretty crazy. For Masai to make those bold moves. Why we're highlighting it, is it really about sport? No, to me, there's things I like to draw from any lesson, any story, any narrative that's in front of me. Masai made bold moves. He shook it up. He traded our franchise player. Mm-hmm. He fired the coach of the year, Dwayne Casey.
Right.
Think about that. Yeah. Okay. He let go at the trade deadline some key pieces: Valanciunas, DeLon Wright, and C.J. Miles. I hope you still have those PJs. And he got rid of them for Marc Gasol.
Right.
So, and he's only played, about 50 games with the Raptors right now.
Right.
I say all that. There's something about making bold moves. There's a saying: boldness has power and magic in it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, which is great because our guest today.
Ooh, what a segue! I give you 10 points for that segue.
Boom.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you? Was he bold?
Bold. He had a vision, and his vision was very clear, and he built on his vision and made it a reality.
Yes. Hey, so you know what? I think it's about time. We might talk raps with him.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We should.
Yeah.
I mean,
he has an athletic build.
One thing that
he follows sports.
And you mentioned, man, I suck at names. Usai, Raptors GM.
Masai. Yeah.
Forgive me. Masai, Nigerian descent. Isaac, Nigerian descent. Yeah. I mean, these Nigerians are killing the city right now, man. They're making some incredible moves.
Yes.
Nice to have some representation.
Yeah.
Let's do it, man. Let's bring Isaac in.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, Isaac. Jump on in.
Let's go.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone, on this beautiful Monday morning. Today, as always, very excited to have here Isaac. And I want to make sure I say this right. Olowolafe.
Yeah, great job.
Perfect.
Hey, nice.
I practiced all weekend.
Junior, I'll throw Junior.
Yeah, Junior there.
Yeah.
You gotta respect the senior.
Yes.
So the story is, or the say is, who is Isaac? Isaac is an investor, entrepreneur, real estate broker, philanthropist, and CEO of Dreammaker Ventures. Yeah. And I mean, I just want to dive right in.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
that is really exciting.
Exactly. Dreammaker. Oh man, I love the name Dream.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, it's a great choice. Great choice. Can I ask right off the top? Did the name come to you in a dream, or did you?
No, it did, and
Yeah.
the whole vision
Wow.
and what we're doing, the barriers that we're trying to break down, so it sort of came to me in a dream, literally almost 15, 16 years ago, and since then, just sort of been building the roadblocks for it, and building on
man.
top of it,
Okay, amazing.
That's sick. I mean, look, we're gonna like dissect
Yes.
and go into quite a bit because it's very, very cool just what you've been able to do, and also being showcased in the media, which we're gonna go into that. But let me ask you this off the top. So just yesterday, we just said this very quickly. This is gonna get probably pushed out in a couple of weeks. However, we're talking about the Raptors,
Yes.
Game 2, Golden State Warriors, and having that loss. But at the same time, there's something magical happening in the city right now.
Don't
Oh, yeah.
say their name the next time. Just say the other team.
Okay.
Okay, let's not dignify them with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's
So
good.
yeah,
That's
Raptors
good.
versus the other team.
The other team,
Yes.
yes. Exactly. There's something magical happening in the city,
Oh, yeah.
a land full of opportunity, man. How much has the city of Toronto done for you? I mean, if you think about it from from just a
Oh yeah,
geographic
like
region.
yeah. So like I feel blessed and sort of excited to the fact that when my parents decided to move to a country from Nigeria, they chose Canada, and more importantly, they focused on Ontario and the GTA. And Toronto's definitely been great for me, for my family, the opportunities, the diverse communities that are here. Really allows you to chase your dream, your Canadian dream.
Okay.
And I'm showing in any industry that you want, regardless of which families or communities have been in those industries. I think I've been showing, and Dreammaker's been showing, regardless of the industries you want to get into in Toronto, if you have the dream, the sacrifice, and the ability to work hard, you'll get through it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's amazing. So it's penetrable. There's a
Yes.
chance,
Yes.
right? I think that's key because it's belief.
It's not easy, but there's definitely a chance. But
Yeah.
nothing good is easy.
Yeah, no, you're
So-
right. I mean,
Of course.
there's so many stories throughout history, even recent history. It takes someone to penetrate that pioneering mind, that person who's going to say, "I'm going to sacrifice it all,"
Correct.
and when they get through, it opens the door
It
for
opens
everybody
up.
else.
Yeah.
It's
And
like
we already see that too.
yeah. It doesn't matter what it is, hairstyling, basketball, whatever it is, whatever you want to do. What's that been like? I mean, what's really cool is there's a huge part of what you do. It's not about just where your feet take you. You're trying to bring everyone else in the room.
Yes.
Was that birthed when you were young? Was it something that were you just always that kid that you got a bunch of gum, you shared your gum? Like what was it like?
Honestly, watching my parents, when my parents came here, one thing they did a lot was help wherever they can, whether with other family members that were in Nigeria that wanted to figure out a streamlined process to migrate to Canada, and then while they were here, how to get a job, what to do, if their family is back home but their kids are here, sort of streamline them and say, okay, this is the best place to go to school, this is where you could get housing, and then even at church, right? So just seeing that growing up, just sort of that paying it forward, giving back was always something that I saw and felt that, if God has placed me at a certain point, I should also do the same thing too.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Did they involve you like in the thinking, or did you just are you just incredibly observant and you paid attention?
Paid attention, and yeah, they definitely brought me in. There'll be times when family comes from out of town, and they're like, son, take the truck and go pick them up and bring them to this property that we're gonna provide for them for the week, and
Wow. Yeah.
and help them take their luggages out. So I just, as a firstborn, always had to say yes, okay, no problem,
Okay, yeah.
there's that, and go and help out, right? So just being involved, seeing that without them asking for anything, just sort of, it felt good, helping others, and whenever there was any need for help or any need of collaboration, and like people were always able to help us out as well too, right? So it went both ways, and it just really showed, you help on one hand, and definitely it'll come back.
Yeah, that's amazing. I guess so. What you're saying is you knew directly your parents' effort and their hope. You helped carry it out.
Yeah.
So you saw directly how it affected the people
Correct.
when they saw that property, that they were given a place to stay,
Correct.
and the gratitude, and that's really cool. I mean, like I believe that even in the smallest form, when you open the door for somebody, you get that feedback.
You get that feedback.
Yeah, you get it, right?
Yeah.
You know, and even the person who doesn't even say thank you, you get an idea of, oh, there's people out there that like that. You
Correct.
know? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yes.
That's really cool.
So from doing your background, because we like doing background
Yes.
checks on everyone.
Yeah, we did everyone's background check that's in
Yes.
the room, just so we know we're safe.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah. So you bought your first home at the age of 22.
Yes.
And when I listened to that, I related to that right away, because
Yes.
I bought my first home when I was 22 as well.
Nice.
And
Nice.
I mean, it's funny because when you look at age now, and I don't know if this happens to you when you're looking at when you were 22 and 22s of now, of today, I'm thinking, man, these 22 years of today are not even thinking that whatsoever. You know what I mean? But I was married at the age of 22.
It's all about having the right filter for their selfies, I guess.
Yeah, I know, honestly.
You know,
and who you're surrounded with.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
No,
your
absolutely.
environment.
So I look at that, and I mean, people tell me, wow, what an amazing accomplishment. We were able to do that so young. The market, was pretty right at that time, and it has shifted back then. You had different laws with CMHC and all that.
Yeah.
So when you look at that, that was really your journey start, is buying your first property at 22.
Yes.
What inspired you to get there, like your mental headspace?
So then again, the environment that I grew up in, again, my parents really sacrificed to make sure we were in the right environment that was not only safe, but showed opportunities, provided opportunities, and real estate construction was the environment that I was sort of grew up in. And my dad was also in real estate as well too, and they already started investing. The first property they ever bought when they came here in Martin Grove and Albion, they still kept it.
Hey,
nice. Right across the Marion Academy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The old Marion Academy.
I got jumped at Marion
Oh,
Academy.
man.
I'm not joking. That's
There's
a
a
true
lot of
story.
stories that happen around
I got
there.
jumped by 20 guys at Marion Academy.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Okay, go on.
It's now Father Henry Carr. Interesting area.
Yes.
Yeah, so so for watching them, and again, I knew very early that I wanted to get into real estate. I knew real estate was a tool that could create not only wealth but generational wealth, and I felt that if I wanted to do that for myself and my future family and for my community, I needed to start early, right? And so it's funny, all the companies were sort of set up around the same time. Dreammaker Developments, Dreammaker Realty, Dreammaker Property Management, but it was only a few years after when they were actually used.
Okay.
But I just sort of knew that, okay, even at 21, 22, eventually I want to be a developer. Didn't know whether it be by 35 or by 40 or by 28, right, which is what it ended up being, right? But again, I knew I put that dream out there, and God sort of laid down the path to get there sooner than I even thought.
Wow.
Yeah, it's funny how that God's a big part of my life as well, in the same way where I always believe that he plants the seed.
Correct.
That he puts it in you, that like I was just talking to a buddy of mine. He's the best man for my wedding. Just talking to him yesterday. Andrew McLean. Not Andrew McLean, the real estate writer. He's got some great books. We love real estate, so we'll get into that after.
Nice.
Shares the same name, but we were talking about how just being designed, that you're designed for something. Even as much as you learn, the more you realize, like, wow, like I was created for this moment right now.
Correct.
To have either this conversation or to go through this. And it's funny, we're going to pick your brain on real estate, because real estate's a hot topic in Toronto.
Yeah.
It's
real
funny.
estate and tech.
Yes,
real
That's
estate
why
and
it's
tech.
funny who were playing, the other team that were playing in the finals.
Yes.
That's the tech juggernaut.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, going back to design, I mean, look, there's a lot of popular opinion on it, but it's okay. It's not about being popular. It's about like knowing the truth that you have yourself.
Correct.
How do you feel that you've been designed for this? How did God make you fit for this? For what you're endeavoring.
Well,
and did you at any point think that you're not ready for it, or that did you feel inferior, or was it you just kind of always knew?
I always knew right from the get-go, and I always used a strategy that if you want victories in life, you have to go through some type of battle or competition. And the bigger the battle, the bigger the competition, the bigger the victories. So
Absolutely.
if you're complaining of no wins and no victories in your life, then get in a few battles, get into a few challenges.
Yeah.
Right.
Aside from road rage.
That's right. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Business battles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
'Cause we're all fighters at the core. We all fight.
We're all fighters in one way or the other. So
Yeah.
it's like, are you fighting on something that is valuable, that makes sense, that's worth the fight? Are you sacrificing, like, growing up or while I was in university, working the midnight shift at UPS? That was a sacrifice. That was a battle. But it was for a bigger goal, right? It was, let me do this and get the tuition reimbursement and put some money together and buy my first property, so I was sacrificing my sleep. But it was worth it at that time because it gave me that little bit of an edge, because I knew when else would I be able to work a little bit while I'm in school, while I'm studying for real estate, right? And while I'm looking for properties. The only other time available was 12 to 5 a.m. Right, so that's when I worked, and it really gave me that edge. But I wasn't the only one sacrificing my sleep or sleep at that time. Right, there was a lot of people in the warehouse doing the exact same work I was doing, sacrificing the exact same number of hours of sleep, but we were sacrificing for different reasons. One was sacrificing maybe just to get food on their plate. Another one sacrificed to pay for their tuition. I was sacrificed so I could start funding my business, right? That was the reason why I was there, right? But some people didn't take advantage of the tuition reimbursement, right? So again, we could all be sacrificing the same path, but one could be taking more advantage of that sacrifice than the other.
Your choices.
Right? Yeah,
that's
the
what
choices.
it comes down
Correct.
to. Yeah,
so I think all that sort of gave me the drive to really push. That this wasn't given. The tools were there, and I had to take the tools and sort of make something out of it, right? The ingredients were there, and I had to take the ingredients and make something out of it.
Yeah.
What's amazing about this is, look, there's this belief or thought process that everybody should have an entrepreneur spirit, and they should be an entrepreneur. Everybody, they should tap into it, right? However, there's all these kind of classes or courses of what to do and this, but there's something that a course can't teach you, and that's the drive from within. You know what I mean? And I find that because we like to cultivate entrepreneurship with our direct circles, okay? And we find that a lot of times people want it, but they either know how to do it, don't want to put the work in to get it, or they just simply don't want to do it. Literally, it comes into that process. I know you've mentioned in past interviews as well, and it's the belief structure where you also, people just throw their money in everything these days. I mean, they'll look at our celebrities of the world and, look at their beautiful Nike Flight Jordan Dash whatever, and they're not realizing they don't pay for it. These people that have the shoes, and they're throwing all their money into this when they could be putting into things that will give them prosperity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And social media doesn't help, right?
It doesn't.
And that's the biggest difference from when we were 22 and compared to now. It's hard now because everyone wants everything right now. They want that car now. They want that house now. They want that big watch now. And there's a lot of work and effort.
For sure. And one of the things that you mentioned today, and I've also heard it, is the generational wealth. Yeah. Okay, that's huge. I mean, I'll just throw this out there. A
good man will leave an inheritance for his children.
No, absolutely. Yes. And I mean, look at this. Look at the people. Let's look at Yonge Street. We're very close to Yonge Street. Yeah. Think of the people that bought real estate on Yonge Street back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, when it was probably very, very cheap. Yeah. I mean, they obviously had funds at that time to do that, and it kind of passed on to right now. To set up a tone and a pace for generational wealth is amazing, because that's something that resonates very strongly with me. I want to create a generational wealth for my family, and there's family, but it has to start somewhere. You know what I mean? Yeah. How have you found that to kind of lead your steps?
Yeah, so again, when you have the mindset of building generational wealth, and battles and challenges comes the first year of business, second year of business, you know in your heart that there's a long-term game. Because wealth is not overnight.
Right.
It's a 10, 20, 30-year place. So,
riches can come quick.
Correct. And go.
Yes.
Very quickly.
Exactly.
Too. With market changes very quickly, and riches are harder to pass down. Right. So when you have that type of mindset, there's a long game. That, you're buying this property and you don't need it to go up by $200,000 tomorrow. Right. Because it's a long-term game. Okay. When you're investing in that tech company, it doesn't have to go public the next year, because it's a long-term game. So when you have that mindset, then you're able to go after and just start building that foundation so that it lasts multiple decades and centuries, right? So that's the mindset I have. So I know in between that, there's going to be a lot of wins, losses. But if you're for every loss or every failure, you're learning from it.
Yes.
It's technically a win. So you're just moving forward.
So what are the obstacles that you think that stop people from moving forward in your experience?
Long term, like having a long-term vision.
thinking.
So they want it now.
So it's lack of vision.
Yeah.
It's lack of, and the unfortunate part, when you go to school for 4 to 5 years, college or university, you take multiple courses on the assumption you're going to get a job. That's sacrificing. That's also thinking a little bit long term, 4 or 5 years out. So it's funny, people will do that, but wouldn't think about, okay, let me invest in something, but not touch it for 5 years or for 6 years, for 7 years, right? Which is actually more predictable than just going to school, spending a lot of money on school and all these courses without no guarantee you're going to get a job.
Yeah.
Right. So you're investing actually with no guarantee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's, I mean, that's the status quo. That there's a set system there. It just makes sense, and everyone's doing it. And I guess, how did you invest in yourself when you were young? I mean, because that's what it comes down to.
I listen to a lot of smarter individuals. I surrounded myself with that's
a smart plan.
Yeah.
I just listened, watched, and observed, and saw what they did, and saw that they got to where they are with sacrifice. They, like, even for my parents to move from Toronto to Woodbridge, it was a big sacrifice. It was working extra hours, working 2 jobs, and still wanting to invest, and still wanting to, maybe they weren't calling it generational wealth, but when they moved to Woodbridge and still kept the property that they owned, that's triggering generational wealth, because they're triggering assets that could be passed down, assets that will continue to grow.
Yes.
Right. But it was a big sacrifice. And we couldn't move and then buy the biggest cars and this and that, because there's a bigger goal. Like, we need to buy more assets. We need to expose you guys to other individuals buying assets, investing in businesses. So having that exposure very early made me realize the path that I wanted to take, and then watching and studying those all around the world that have succeeded in any form of business or investments, just seeing the level of sacrifice and drive and dedication that they had made me realize that if I want to achieve something great, there's going to be a level of pain, there's going to be a level of sacrifice, there's going to be, you're not going to be able to make everyone happy. But you just got to have the bigger goal in mind.
It's so key. I mean, look at it. Like, let's just test that thinking with anything. Who would, in their right mind, spend 12 hours a day in a lab for 6 days a week for X number of years as a scientist, okay, or as or to become a doctor, right? I mean, that's what's great about long term, but also just working daily.
Correct.
Like, it's so good that we just have a day at a time.
Yes.
Because if you were to put that workload in front of you and think, okay, this is what it takes to be a doctor, almost everyone would say, okay, it's not worth it.
I know.
So I think it's one and the same. It's like
Correct.
Big dreams. I think that goes to what you were saying. Everyone wants the big picture. We all seen it in someone else.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I want what they have, but then it now translates to work. What are you gonna do right now?
What are you gonna do?
Right.
Right.
You're here right now. You're at this intersection. This is the little you have. Make the most of it. And I think that's when it comes down
Correct.
to.
Right.
With what you had, I mean, you obviously didn't, you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You didn't come here and just had like options.
Yeah.
You had to observe
and create them.
Yeah, and really see, okay, there's my opportunity.
Correct.
Right? What's one breakthrough where you might even been as a young kid where you're like, okay, I know I can do that. I know how to get that done. Like, for me, I knew how to turn $1 into $2. Okay, I just knew if I bought this gum, I could sell it for $2. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because after the end of school, people wanted gum. It was that simple. Yeah. So what's something that you just said, like, as early on, you're like, okay, I got that, and it still serves you now?
I think really the drive for me throughout high school to get a U of T, while like getting through high school in advanced courses and get into U of T while playing sports, while doing all these extra activities, made me realize I could multitask. Because I was obviously the oldest and the first one to get into university, but even at that time, a lot of people thought it was impossible for me to get into university, never mind U of T. So to be able to get into U of T while still playing sports, while still doing other extra activities, and to get through it, that's when I'm like, you know what? Obviously, I have the ability to do a few things at the same time at a high level.
You can manage a lot.
Yeah, I can manage a lot. Let me go out and manage a few businesses. Let me go out and manage a few investments.
Okay. Yeah, that's key. Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. It's good. It's great to, because you got to identify it at some point, right? In yourself. You can't just kind of go blindly. I want to ask you on real estate. If someone were to ask you, real estate's one of those amazing topics that few people know about, that they really understand.
Correct.
They just know their mortgage, which means until death.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it means in Latin. It actually means it literally means from the word mortuary. It actually means until death. Okay? Which is interesting. So I'm not to hate on people with mortgages, but but there's a system there. You gotta if someone said you're on the bus, I'm not sure if you find yourself on the bus, New York City more likely, but there's this, you got this Ukrainian lady and she leans over and she says, "You look nice. What do you do?" And you say real estate. And she looked at you and she said, "What do I need to know?" What would you tell her?
Location.
Boom. Okay. Yeah.
Find the right location and buy and hold.
Yes.
Find the right location and buy and hold, and don't look at all the noise from the media, the experts talking about the market's going up, the market's going down. Just focus on the fundamentals.
Yeah.
So once you find the location, you'll find common fundamentals within those locations, whether it's immigration, whether it's the banking sector, private sector, education, healthcare, right? All those different fundamentals that indirectly drive the market, the rental rates, right? So when you find the right location and you get an understanding what fundamentals are, then you buy what you're able to buy.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. And she looked at you and said, "Okay, what do I read? Where do I go next?" Yeah, you're nice looking man. You're not going to give me your number, but where do I go next if I want to learn more?
Yeah, a lot of people ask, what do you read to really know what to buy, and really is trying to find that right team, an individual that truly understands the market, not from a sales point of view, but from an actual purchasing and investing point of view. Because you could be an expert in sales and not have a knowledge of the market.
Yeah,
right?
or selling your book.
Correct. Yeah,
right.
You could sell a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Right, and not actually be an expert of that craft that you're actually selling. You're just an expert in selling. Right.
Yeah. Any go-to sources that you think you would advise anyone?
I'll just say in your local areas, always research any local real estate real estate shows, real estate forums happening, investment forums happening, and just go there, listen, and ask questions. Go there, listen, and ask questions, because there's a lot of different events on real estate, on investing. People go there. I would spend 6 to 10 months just doing that, and just picking people's brain while you go to all those, and then now assess yourself and say, okay, if I'm going to start, what does it cost to start, depending on what I want to buy, right? And if you're thinking long term, if you're thinking a major city like a Toronto, then you say, okay, you know what? Let me just buy a condo, because it's the cheapest thing I could buy in a prime location, right? So yes, land is always better, but you're trying to get in to the market. Like my very first property I bought was at Kipling and Steeles. I can't remember the actual street now. And then the second one was in McLevin. Yeah, Marbrook Lane, exactly. Yeah. Marbrook Lane in Kipling and Steeles, and then McLevin in Scarborough. Yeah, Scarborough. I still have it right across the Malvern Town Center.
Now you can actually say I have property across Toronto.
I know.
Yeah, that's smart.
By 23, across Toronto, I got right, and that was all I could get in. It was $124,000. That's all I could get in at that time, right? So regardless of the price or how big it is or how nice it is, when you have an understanding that you just want to get into the game, you buy what you could buy in any location that is of value, right? And then you can start building off of that.
That's great. I think what you said off the top there, which is awesome, is listen.
Yes.
Right? Notice that. I mean, that speaks to you. It's probably why you're doing what you're doing. It's because you had the patience and the sense to get in the circle where the conversation is a real conversation.
Right.
You know, I threw out the book knowing that that's kind of standard. People say, I want to learn a topic.
Yeah.
They're going to read 6 to 10 pages, and then they're going to start advising their friends on real estate.
Correct.
Right? Isn't that true?
They become the expert, right?
That's how it is. So you know what you got to do?
Yeah.
You got to buy low, sell high, like, right? But to listen for 6 to 10 months just to get a feel. I forget which book it is that I read. It might have been, I forget which one it is. Good to Great.
Okay.
John C. Collins. And I think he talks, there's one of the world's first billionaires. And he was asked when he was speaking at a business school, they asked him, you lose everything. What would you do the next thing? The next morning, he said, I would find where the wealthiest people have breakfast, and I'd sit at the next table. That's all. And then so started this whole conversation. Like, hold on, what do you mean? What do you like? You know, like why does that change anything? And he literally said, it's the conversation. It's what they're talking about.
Right.
They're the tip of the spear. They're the ones who are determining what's going to happen next and privy to everything. What they say has clout.
Correct.
Okay, and they know the ground, they know the land, they know the struggle. And he said his goal would be to listen and then eventually interject. And he would literally interject because he goes, even if I lost everything, I still know what I know. And I know the way it works. He goes, so he had no fear of ever losing his money because he knows that he could build it again.
Correct.
Right?
And what's powerful about also that, and what I'm kind of hearing from you as well, Isaac, and it's the people around you, your team, as you said, right?
Yeah.
What's so key about that, and we said this in past shows, back in the days, a youth pastor used to tell me, show me your 5 closest friends and I'll tell you who you are.
Correct.
And at the end of the day, in life now, when I take that same message, I'm like, who are the 5 closest people in my life that I interact with the most amount of time? And they're all positive people.
Correct.
They're all people that move me. Thanks, Mike, for moving me. They motivate me. They help me see things a certain way. Reverse that. If I had 5 negative people, always downers and this and that, I mean, I'd probably
Can't
jump
move
off
forward.
a building or something. You
can't
know what I
move
mean?
forward.
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause there's always negativity,
Right?
But you can't focus on that.
For sure.
You can't. You always gotta look at the positive. Time just being alive is
Right.
positive. You know, get into a location and back.
Right.
Is positive. So it's focus on that.
For sure.
You know, focus on that phone call, on that meeting that you're gonna have, right?
Yeah.
On all the positive things that can happen, because it's just negativity drives negativity.
It does,
and
man.
And then you keep complaining. Oh man, why did this happen? Why did that
It
happen?
drives negativity and you go nowhere.
Yeah,
You cannot move
can't.
forward with
You
it.
can't.
Right?
Right.
There's nothing. If we just complain about, anything, it's not going to give us
No.
the next
absolutely.
steps, right?
For
Absolutely
sure.
not.
Yeah, so the Raptors will still win the series. That's why we're not talking Raptors. No.
They actually asked Kawhi Leonard, that's my question. They actually said this to him. They go, do you think you guys can win? And he said, of course. He goes, you have to believe it or else it's not going to happen. It's just funny they asked that question.
I know.
I love these
I know.
reporters.
Yeah.
Do you believe you could win?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, no.
No, but it's my job to show up.
Sure.
Come on.
Exactly.
That's great. So it's 6 to 10 months to just listen.
Yeah.
Hear what the conversation is.
And then try and get into the right location.
Get in the game and get in the game in the best with what you have right now.
Correct.
Yeah, I know everyone wants to be able to walk in and say I bought $1 million, but if you have if it's 124, good location outside on the outskirts of Ontario, but there's some good things happening there.
And you could get in and get in comfortably, and maybe if you have to stretch yourself, fine, stretch yourself and get 2. Right? Don't stretch yourself and get one that's so expensive and may not be much value, because expense doesn't mean value.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Value
Very
becomes
key.
expensive.
Right.
Very
Right.
key.
Expense doesn't mean value.
For sure.
There's an old guy. I think he's in his 90s. He owns Review Cinema in Roncesvalles. I met him once at a wedding. He's an old Irishman. He's like a fireball, and he became a millionaire at 78.
Wow.
Okay, and he literally almost grabbed my shirt, and he says, I'm not going to do an Irish accent, but he said to me, don't buy a house, buy a building. That's what he said. And he goes, do what it takes, buy a building, and you'll be able to you won't have to wait till you're 78.
Yes.
What does he mean when he says that?
Like,
'Cause I didn't get it.
Go big.
He just
Go
had nice
big.
breath.
Go big if you could. Go big if you
Go
could.
big.
Like
Yeah.
we started off buying just condos. Then we paused and said, okay, we got to buy land and build the condo. Then we
Hence
paused.
the development.
Correct. And then we paused and said, okay, we got to buy commercial building and build a hotel, convert it into a hotel. We started to just dream bigger.
Right.
So that's basically what he's saying. Don't get your first one, but also have the mindset that you want to get a bigger one, right? So you get a bigger assets because an apartment building with 10 rooms is the same type of effort in terms of managing it with 2 or 3 condos.
It's interesting,
right? It's the
Yeah,
same.
isn't that
It's the same
interesting?
effort. Now
Same
it costs
effort.
more,
Yeah.
but it's the same effort.
My dad would always tell me that the only difference between big and small is number of zeros.
Correct.
It's the only thing.
Yeah.
but it's the same intangibles.
Same intangible.
Yeah, you're gonna sell $100,000 real estate or $100 million real estate. They do the exact same thing.
I'll never forget. A lot of people was like, Isaac, if you never did a custom home or a renovation, you just went right into a 9-story building. I said honestly, it takes the same about 3 years. If I bought a house and I try to split it into 2 lots and then put up 2 homes, it'll be about a year to do that, a year construction, a year to pay out investors, 3 years. Might as well start with a condo. It's going to take the same amount of time.
Yeah.
And that's why we started with the
and
condo.
that's what we did. Amazing.
Yeah.
Look,
amazing.
And the key is you've built a strong foundation.
Yeah,
Okay, to
yeah.
be able to do that, which is absolutely key as well. Man, I mean, it's pretty incredible. I think anyone listening or watching this, they need to start taking notes, man, because it's the small, simple, fundamental things that kind of build on.
Correct.
I said this before. Back in the 70s, you have Steve Jobs, and you got Steve Wozniak in their garage, and they're building this $1 trillion plus company that we have today as the Apple product. And what's so amazing is that, if you think of back in their early start, they probably didn't see that they'd have a Mac Pro computer. They were just building from the scratch. To me, what you've been able to do, I mean, obviously get into that. You got into brokerage, you got into development. And then one of the most amazing things that you've been able to do, which was highlighted recently in the media, is the BIF, the Black Innovation Fellowship,
Yes.
okay, which was created in partnership with Ryan University. That is incredible. I just want you to speak on that a bit, man, because to me, when we even talk about the stands of what we do in the city and representing, this is the essence of representation.
Yeah,
and massive.
We're excited about that because for the last 20 years, my dad was telling everyone to buy real estate. For the last 15 years, been telling everyone to buy real estate, especially within the Black community. Buy real estate, build generational wealth. Real estate is expensive, right? And it takes a lot of capital, a lot of resources. The next form of wealth creation is technology. You look at the top wealthiest individuals on Forbes, a lot of it came through technology, innovation. So I felt that if the Black community were to miss out on this ship and boat that's happening in Toronto when it comes to technology innovation, it's going to be a lot of problems for the city as a whole. Right. And we felt we really needed to step in and do something, not just for ourselves and our company to be able to participate in the growing tech ecosystem in Toronto, but really establish something that will open the eyes of more Black individuals within the city to strive to start a business, know that they could get into the top incubator that will help grow their business and give them access to traction team, access to funding. So as they grow, they could hire people. It's an economic play. It's not a social play. People may see it as a social play, but it's actually a strategic social economic play. And we didn't just do it for any industry. We didn't just pick any university. We were very strategic. We picked tech. We picked Ryerson. We picked Shopify as a partner, BMO as a partner, and we're excited about it. And we didn't do it 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 3 years from now. We did it right now because right now everyone's eyes is on Toronto when it comes to tech as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. Like it's like the impact of what we're going to do will be seen for years and decades to come because we're creating businesses, not just individual employment. We're creating businesses which will now employ other people. So it's going to be a massive ripple effect.
Whose thought was this? Like when it came into play, like was this something that your family had, yourself? Like
No, it was just always thinking of ways to change the game in different industries that hasn't been changed from the point of view of our community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, that's so amazing that speaks to who you are as an individual. That speaks to you as a person, man, to be able to do something like that and change not only people's lives, but also the way business is done in a city. Like,
yeah, it's amazing.
Change. It's a movement.
Yeah.
It's a movement.
Yeah, true pioneering, which is true entrepreneurship. You know? There's something that I know it's probably a big word with you, accessibility.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think I'll kind of divulge into that. As much as you put your effort, sometimes you just find yourself in the right place, or you have access to the right information or the right people. It's a shame when someone has that all and they don't do anything with it.
It's a shame.
It's a shame, you know. That's the other side of generational wealth, where they don't work hard. They see, and it's just like, okay, get my trust fund. Let me turn 18. Okay?
Right.
Accessibility. I bring it up because I know a lot of guys. I know a lot of young black men who had no accessibility. They had all the drive, all the desire, and at some point their dream kind of shriveled up.
Yeah.
Okay, whether it was hooping, whether it was a business or a clothing line, even in real estate as well. But they didn't have anyone else around them.
Correct.
Okay, they were isolated. So with this initiative that you're doing, what will it look like to them, to those that have access? You know, what is it? Like an online membership? Is it direct one-on-one mentorship? Like what's it looking like?
So basically it allows individuals that have a business.
We have an ambitious television. Stay on mute, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, machine does what man tells it to.
We're talking about tech. Tech took over.
I know.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll rephrase the question.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you make these resources accessible to that driven young man?
Yeah. So
or woman that's like I
woman,
want to
exactly.
Make,
yes, absolutely. So within the program, there's 3 different tiers. There's the sandbox, which is for individuals that have a new idea. It hasn't been proven yet. They want to collaborate. They want to build on it. It's a 12-month incubation with other companies, with mentors, to be able to work with you and see, okay, can you actually turn this into a business? This is sandbox. Then we have the validator, and that's for a business that's already operating, already generating revenue, but you're trying to take it to the next level. You're trying to see, how do I grow my client base? Who do I hire next? And again, getting to understand that mentorship, especially if you don't come from a background of family members and friends that are CEOs or bankers or business owners. You know, you're able to come there and ask questions and not feel ashamed asking those questions. That's the purpose of it. That's roughly 6-month incubator. And then you have the accelerator. Those are companies that are generating multi-million dollars worth of revenue. But they're trying to figure out, how do I land that big client?
Yes.
How do I expand into the States? How do I expand globally? Do I need to hire a CFO or a CEO? How do I raise $10 million, $50 million? Where do I raise that? And that's typically a 4-month program. So it's really set up for all types of businesses. And, you know, this is something that we started this process to where we are now almost 4 years ago, when we gave the first gift to Ryerson, and we named the room the Issac Olowolafe Digital Media Room. That room is specifically there to give access to Ryerson students to 3D glasses, 3D printer, and different technologies. So it's an access point. It's in a student learning center. And when we did that, the premise of us doing that was so that we could have workshops with kids from at-risk communities to come there and gain that same access, and be able to not only see a name that they could almost resonate with, but also gain access to technology and tools. So that was the first start of what BIF ended up coming 3-4 years after.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Sandbox, validator, accelerator.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really cool. I know there's one guy that I'm thinking in particular that I want to introduce to you. He's my barber.
Okay, nice.
He's a young guy, Congolese guy from Regent Park. He's got a barbershop Supreme. Dundas in Parliament. Shout out to Flory, a.k.a. X. This guy, at 18, his best friend told him, look, you got to cut my hair. I don't have money. He's like, cut my hair. And he didn't know how to cut. And his friend literally, by demand, just said, no, you're going to cut my hair. Make all your mistakes. I'll never get mad at you. So he started cutting. After a couple of months, he got pretty good. When his friend turned 18, he got shot and killed at his own birthday party.
Wow.
True story. The whole story is crazy. this kid knows what he's about, because he knows this is long term. He's doing every single day. He makes all the sacrifices because of what his best friend, who's now deceased, set the course for him. He ended up working for another barber shop, a high-end one in Yorkville. At some point, he knew this wasn't me. He didn't feel validated there. It wasn't true. So he went back to his neighborhood, and now he has something really special that he's building there.
Wow.
Every time I get a cut, we talk business, we talk life, and he needs someone to mentor. He needs that outside set of eyes that's kind of been there, done that will ask him the right questions, and not in the setting of what he's familiar with.
Yes.
That will challenge him. That will make him see what's possible. All these things. He needs accessibility. He really does. I think the only difference between him and the guys in his neighborhood that aren't doing anything, living those sideways years for probably the next couple of decades, is he had this one incident that the death of his friend was life to him. Okay, and he knows that. He's got this black and white photo of his best friend up there in the barber shop, so he never forgets. It's an amazing story. Okay, whenever I talk to him, he's just full of dreams. But I think he just doesn't know what's accessible and what could be tangible. So I don't even know if he's in the validation stage yet. His sandbox, like for him,
be more sandbox.
He's got a great sandbox.
Like, how do I take this one store to multiple stores? And even though this program is for tech driven, but this is a type of format that needs to be across all industries. And hit different communities that don't have that type of access. And this is what we're lobbying the government for right now, and on all levels of government, that we should stop creating more social programs and create more economic programs. Because at the end of the day, that's what the youth need. They need opportunities to create income, positive income, right, and create jobs, right? So if we could create programs and structures where they could do that, where they could create new businesses, or if it can't create a business, get opportunity to get a skill set, to get a job, a high-paying job, the city would change.
Yeah, I totally agree. I worked in a nonprofit for about 10 years, Urban Promise. We worked in a bunch of different government housing neighborhoods. They're still doing great work, with kids aged 5 to 20. At some point, you realize charity doesn't work. It doesn't work. And even social programs, to a point, there's a role for them. But there's about real empowerment for someone. When you were talking about validator, all I kept thinking about was drug dealers. And in certain neighborhoods, this is true talk, the businessmen are the drug dealers. And they're the one who teach the next generation on how to make money. That's what it is. That's their business school. And it works. So because of accessibility.
Correct.
Okay. Correct. That would be really cool. Just in some of these neighborhoods, they're forgotten. Right? They're marginalized. They're at risk. There's always, like, each decade, there's a new term for them. But there's no lack of desire.
There's no lack.
Look at some of these guys. I mean, look at Jay-Z. Jay-Z coming out of his neighborhood. He talks about as a kid growing up, there's just guys running through his neighborhood with Uzis trying to chase someone down for money and whatever. But he had enough sense that he was like, no, I want more. I want to go after something more. I have a question for you. So tech.
Yes.
So it's primarily tech right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Any plans for it to be outside of tech?
Yeah, we want it to. And again, this is what we're lobbying with the government. Like, all the funding that they're creating for especially the Black community, when it's around just gun violence and dropout rates, they're painting a brush on the community that we're more than that. Yes. Right. And so we're trying to talk with them. So how do we create a program to drive more lawyers, to drive more doctors?
Way higher expectation.
Higher expectations, right? And it's just creating the same type of mentorship program, funding a mentorship program that teaches someone how to go from this step to that step to that step, get access to the incubating of you being a lawyer, get access to incubating of you being a doctor, you being a business owner, you being a contractor, and then getting access to the mentors, and then getting access to how to do the applications and how to get in, and then how to get articling. It's the same process as across the board for all industries. It's the same way for sports, how they start from a certain age and then they develop them up. Yeah. Right. So, we need to create more strategic development programs with an economic outlook for the community. That's the only solution that to change what's happening right now.
I think
That's awesome.
what changes that is just expectation. That's amazing. There's a story. I knew a guy who he had a program in Philadelphia, and there's a whole bunch of kids that would come in for camp. Okay, different schools, different neighborhoods. Once he's running the program, and there's a whole bunch of kids from the inner city that were there, and they're all kind of jumping all around, and they're just kind of in the classroom. They're going all over the place. Okay, literally hanging upside down. Okay, and an older gentleman that was associated with this program walked in, and he looked at the program coordinator, and he's like, "Oh, you're racist." And he's like, "What are you talking about? I'm doing these programs for the inner city." And he said, "You're racist because your expectation is a racist expectation. You're not demanding anything of these kids. Nothing. Like, you're letting them just kind of do anything. Because what are you scared of? Giving them some order? Expecting them? Like, you think that if you just ask them and you engage them, you think that they won't pay attention? They're kids." He said, if this was a group of 100 white kids, would you let them do what they're doing right there? And which is really cool about this guy, he felt like, he felt the truth there.
Wow.
And he felt corrected, and he changed what he did. And when they came in, he established respect, established parameters, and he ran that place, giving them credit. That, it's interesting like that, because if that's anybody, if you just let anybody do anything, they'll do anything.
Yeah.
If there were no lines in a parking lot, we would just park anywhere on the pavement.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really cool what you said about that. Yeah.
Isaac, how does somebody get into this Black Innovation Fellowship program? How did they get into that?
So there's an application on the website. If they just Google Black Innovation Fellowship Ryerson, the actual website will come up, and then they could apply there. And applications have opened up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. For
And
anyone
it's 10
listening,
companies every year.
yes,
10 a year. Okay.
Yeah, 10 companies every year. So again, we're hoping to increase that to 20 companies. But again, it's just, even if you look, 5 years from now, that's minimum 50 companies, 50 selected companies. So imagine each of them, hire an average of 10 people each. They raise capital of X. Like, that's a massive economic
huge
play that right now there's no program that you could say in 5 years will create 50. Will grow 50 businesses, not just any type of business. 50 top businesses in the city, which will create employment, which will create investment. So this is groundbreaking what we're doing.
It's amazing.
That's huge. Let me ask you this, man, because this has been going through my mind the whole time. Doing what you're doing and having your hands literally in 5,000 different things, and how do you find balance?
He can multitask.
Yeah, exactly. How do you? What is the secret to balance? And when I'm talking about balance, I'm talking about separation between family, relationships, and work. I mean, what's your secret to that?
It's just having priorities. Like I remember I have 3 daughters, age 6 and 3, and I remember when I first started school, I said I will not miss any school trip that any of you have. So it's going on almost 5 years, 6 years, and there's an average of 6 or 7 trips a year, every single trip. A few days ago was a soccer tournament. The week before that, medieval times. Before I actually enjoyed that one. I miss medieval times.
Nice.
Before that was the Sony Theater. We watched a play. So it's just setting priorities. And when you do a business that you love, you work with friends and family. Like I have individuals that I went to elementary school, high school, church, university. Friends that I met along the way, all directly or indirectly connected to the company. Right, so it doesn't even feel like work.
Yeah.
That's why every time we're trying to say, how do we change the game? Like, and that's why even with the sports and entertainment, we're changing the game with that as well too, changing the mindset of that. When we became the jersey sponsor of Canada Basketball, for the first time probably in Canada, there's a black business on a national jersey that athletes are wearing.
Right.
Athletes. So even the athletes that don't make it to the pros, they can now say, well, we could build up a business that could someday be a sponsor. Okay. When you're watching the Raptors and you see the Sun Life, I'm sure there's no black kids thinking, man, I wonder if my company could be on the Raptors. Why not? Why can't we think of that?
Look at OVO.
Correct.
That just shows the power of what's possible.
Yep.
No one would think
Yeah.
if they put themselves in Drake's shoes 15 years ago that they would have their company logo on the practice facility and all. Like, it is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Canada basketball. I grew up playing basketball, played college ball.
Oh, nice.
I have a little Canada basketball story. When I was in high school, one of my coaches was an assistant for the national team. So we at Humber College were there. We helped keep score. We fed the passes and the balls for anyone who was trying out for the national team.
Oh yeah, because that was the training center.
Yeah, that was the training center.
Yeah.
So I saw Steve Nash try out for the team.
Wow.
When these guys are younger, like a whole bunch of guys. How did that happen? Like, working with Canada basketball, because it's on the up and up. There's Jay Triano did an amazing job. There's been some amazing stuff. Where there's some crazy Canadian talent.
Correct.
Talk about development.
Yeah, and again, it's almost been 8 years now of trying to position myself. Nothing ever happens overnight. Remember, you think long term, and then you just take those baby steps along the way. So almost 8 years ago, from the time even Masai came, being a Nigerian, being the GM, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. That was so that year, I think they just missed the playoffs. That's when I first became season ticket holder, just because of that.
Nice.
And seeing, okay, how could I eventually work within this space? And then there's opportunities with the NBL when that first started with Oshawa Powers, which moved over to Mississauga, and then it was the previous Olympics. They had the six-man club. I think the guys from Canada Goose was part of it, and other companies, and that didn't work out. And then this opportunity just came on the table through some key individuals that were part of the space. And again, we saw where the sports was going within the city. We saw the developments that was happening, and we saw the intersection between sports, tech, real estate, business, and dream in the middle of that.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So that's why we said this could be a nice component that we could add. And really, why are we doing it? Why do we want to work with athletes and entertainers? Because there's not that many companies that truly care about them, right? They're truly trying to create wealth for them and show them the path. And that's what we want to do for athletes and entertainers, first Canadian athletes and entertainers, and then expand it to the U.S. and other countries as well too.
Well, yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's key because they get riches, athletes get money, but they just don't know how to manage it.
Yeah.
They don't really know. All of us know those horror stories.
Correct.
Yeah,
because we know if we've been working with athletes and entertainers for the last 10 years, the way we've been working with other individuals, you would see way more infrastructure in the city.
Yes.
Way more infrastructure in the city owned by athletes and entertainers. Way more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So sick.
Yeah. I mean, because they have their industries where they can accelerate really quickly, kind of like nothing else.
Yeah.
And they're in the limelight.
Yeah.
They're in the spotlight, so they can spotlight a need, or they can say, I'm building this soccer field for my old high school or whatever. Like, I think we're not hearing enough of that. I mean,
maybe it's happening.
Yeah, but we don't hear about it. Though.
We're not hearing about it, and we're not seeing the impacts of it.
Yeah, because the more you hear about it, the more you see the impact, the more you feel it, the more you'll be more inclined to do it or be a part of just that initiative.
Correct.
And that's where, like, I think that's what's really cool about, I think, what's the opportunity in Toronto.
Yeah.
That is, tech comes in, and we're gonna have this explosion of influence we talked about.
Correct.
That's what it comes down to. It's influencing the rest of the world.
Yeah. A lot of things are happening all at the same time. Tech, sports, real estate has always been there. Film, it's huge. Music,
the arts, the music
the arts,
scene.
Yeah, right. So it's, how do you participate in that? Those that don't have access, how could they get access to it? Right. So
it comes down to, I guess, like generosity. I have a good buddy of mine, Malik Yoba, from New York Undercover. I'm not sure. So
yes.
I remember talking with him, and we were literally in Kensington Market, and I said to him, look, how did you have this career that you had for so many decades, which they're rebooting? They're relaunching New York Undercover.
Oh, really?
I thought you were going to say they're relaunching Cool Runnings.
No, I have, no, New York Undercover. They're actually
that's sick.
Yeah, and it's not a remake. It's actually a continued story. Okay, so Malik will be in it as an older man who worked the streets. Okay, but I asked him, like, how did you have this career? And he's like, you know what? He said, I never had a job. He says, my entire life, I have never had a job. I've never had to think, okay, I just put in hours, I get a paycheck. Okay, And he said for him, he was always wired differently, that he always wanted to go after a lot.
Right.
But it was instilled in him from family to be generous.
Yes.
And he said to me, the only reason he's been able to stay in the industry that long is because he's generous. He's generous with his time. You know, if he finds about the smallest grassroots little art initiative, and that's what was going on in Kensington Market. Our boy Dwayne, who'll be on the show, he's a musician who's in Paris right now. He was running this little art program, got a little bit government money, kind of ran this little drop-in, and Malik came there and spoke to like 20 youth that all had some art aspirations. He picked up a guitar, started jamming because he can play guitar. They saw like he's on Empire. They saw all of the things that he's doing, and then he talked to them and he's like, "Look, man, I know exactly where you are." He said, and the only difference between you and me is that, he goes, I believed and I just continue to believe.
Right.
And that's all he kept telling them, is just believe that anything's possible, and you're going to have disappointment. But so this is a guy that he does not have to do that,
right.
but he's generous.
He's generous.
And what he said to me on the flip side, he said that when he was generous with his time, not only working through an assistant or anyone who would just tell him, oh, that's important, that's not. He knew that he needed to kind of guide that himself, that he said that people just took care of him. So he said that when he took care of other people, some miraculous way that he was always, someone else took care of him, which is pretty interesting. You know, so I say that because I just think that that's something we can learn and we can do differently maybe as a city.
Correct.
That Toronto, we have an opportunity not to be like the other world-class cities where it's only about money.
Right.
And it's all about only the stronger survive. But it might be really cool and that's why I love guys like Masai.
Yeah.
Have you met Masai?
Yeah, I met him.
Okay,
Great
like,
guy.
isn't he one of like the 5
Giants of Africa? Like, it's amazing. Amazing what he's
how
doing.
nice is that guy? How humble is that guy? Him
so
and his
humble.
wife, they're just
So
so
humble.
amazing. Is it like, you think that you'd have to be like a real jerk to be in his position? That's what people would think, right? You know, he's got to be like willing to cut your head off to get where he's going. You know,
He's just driven. He's driven, and he
driven.
has a kind heart.
Right.
Yeah, and he just, whatever opportunity he has, everyone else gets
Correct.
it. Yeah, it's amazing.
Let me ask you this, Isaac. I know you got a lot of stuff. You got to develop the city and got a lot of things to go.
We don't want to hold you back.
So what I want to ask, just as a kind of like a final question, is everything that you've done in your journey has involved some level of risk.
Yes.
Okay, and there's always that, saying risk over reward and all those other elements. What would you throw out so that people that are listening? Because I mean, for myself, back when I was doing real estate, I did get hit with one really bad investment, and it actually almost crippled me to the point where I didn't want to do it again because of that. Right. However, for anyone listening that wants to dive in, there is a level of risk. What would be your words of wisdom around, overcoming that and just going through with it?
I think starting with some friends and family, like even with family, and coming together and saying, okay, instead of you put in $100,000 to purchase, because now it's just ridiculously priced.
Right.
Everyone, family members coming together, put in $10,000-15,000 each, and buy this one property, learn together, grow that property, and then everyone says, okay, there may be a month or two that the rent doesn't come in. Now, as a family, we could handle it, which would be easier than if it's just one person.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So those are ways to mitigate the risk. Everything we do is always risk involved, but it's how do you mitigate it as much as possible, and how do you find ways that and knowing sort of what the risks are when you get in.
Right.
So, when you buy a property, if you're thinking long term, the risk of it going down or the value's low, you could throw that out because it was a long-term play anyways.
Yeah. People will always need a house.
Correct, right? So it's where people lose in real estate is when they buy and hoping to sell it as a speculative asset.
Yes.
But if you're just looking at a long-term play, the one in Malvern, it's paid off now. How much did they appreciate? I don't know.
Right.
I'll check the next time I got to do an appraisal.
Yes.
But the point is, it's paid off now, and I'm getting rent.
Right.
So if that's all I had to pass down, my daughters will have,
There's an
one
option
property, $2,000, $1,500, whatever a month.
Yes.
That's coming, right?
Yeah.
So the point is, when you think long term, you take away a lot of the risk, but along the way, there's some short term risk, like, okay, the tenant doesn't pay, right? So that's why if you're able to start your first one, if it's the very first one and you're worried about certain risk, with a few people, with family,
That's smart.
Get your feet wet, then you get the second one. Get your feet wet, get the third one.
It lessens the blows when they come,
For sure.
right?
Because they're going to come.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's awesome.
Real estate market.
Victories doesn't come without some blows.
Yeah, real estate market in Toronto, it's crazy. I mean, there was an article that just came out in the HuffPost about Toronto's the fastest growing city, okay, in the U.S. and Canada.
Yes, I saw that. Yes.
Okay, and then the headline said, which is not good.
Good. Yeah.
Okay, what's your thoughts on it? What do you tell the average Canadian family that is just, they're paying crazy rent right now? Rent control has been alleviated.
Yeah.
It's pretty nuts what some of the rent is, and what would you give? Imagine you're navigating with them.
Is the understanding that we're in a mega city. It's just that new realization that we're in a mega city. We're the fourth largest city in North America. We have the top this, we have the top that. We're driving immigration, and not just any type of immigration, but strategically. There's the investment class. There's businesses being started up. There's Silicon Valley Bank setting up here.
Yeah.
Google Sidewalk.
Yeah.
So it's that realization, and then when you realize that, it's just like when you realize, oh wow, the Raptors are good, and I can no longer buy tickets for $100. Like when you realize, now you got to adjust yourself. It's like, okay, if I really want to go to the Raptors game, I got to save more.
Right.
Yes.
Before, we didn't have to save.
Right.
You just go down, okay, I want to get some tickets.
Yeah.
But now you got to change that mindset. So if I want to go to a Raptors game, I got to save some money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I want to continue to live in a mega city, I got to adjust myself.
Right.
Maybe I got to get that second job. Maybe I got to not do that vacation this year because city's getting expensive and there's no signs of slowing down. And we shouldn't be expecting that as our way to get in.
Okay.
We should say, how do we change our mindset so we could get in as the city is growing? Because you want to live in a growing city.
What's your thoughts on Toronto as a mega city? What do you think it needs to do to prepare for that?
Well, infrastructure, definitely. We continue to build on infrastructure and continue to make ways where it's unlike other major cities where there's at least some helping hand to the masses.
Yeah.
But obviously, charity could only go so way. But I think it's creating sort of a level playing field for as many people as possible. And then it's for them to really drive, right? And I'm also focusing on those that have the drive, willing to sacrifice, willing to put in that work, but just not getting the opportunity. So I think it's just creating a level playing field. And that's why I love the program that we're doing at Ryerson's, because when I was telling Ryerson, I'm like, we already know DMZ is the number one top incubator. We know that you guys have set milestones for any company to get in. And just because we're launching Black Innovation Fellowship doesn't mean we're lowering the standards. They still, if no companies hit the same standards, it's just like when a black student gets into Harvard, they didn't lower the standards for that black student. They got in at their own metrics, but they made sure they created opportunity to increase the number of racialized minorities into that university. Same thing we're doing with this. We're not lowering the standards. We're just saying for those that are driving their business, for those that are willing to sacrifice, for those that are willing to put in the work, now they have access to the same access like every other business from different communities.
Okay.
That's amazing. I mean, that's a game changer in and of itself, right? Because
Absolutely.
it's not about ability.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not about ability, right? Yeah.
Well, look, man, I really want to thank you for coming down here.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's very inspiring, and I think you've created an amazing platform for people to better themselves and go from there. We're definitely going to do a part 2. I'm giving the prophetic word right now. We're doing a part 2 here. And
looking forward.
Exactly. And kind of dive into that. But thank you so much, Isaac. And we really wish you, man, the best of luck in continuing what you're doing.
Thank you. Likewise. I love the work that you guys are doing and sharing positivity in the city. That's amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very
Appreciate
much.
the invite.
Thanks.
Cool, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Listen to this episode on iTunes and Spotify. Make sure to drop by next week. And don't forget to subscribe.
Let's go!
It's time to give a shout out to our sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by Sentinel Security Plus. For all your premium security needs, visit SentinelSecurityPlus.com.
And The Substance Group for all your integrated marketing solutions. Visit TheSubstanceGroup.com.